Hey YouTube, thank you for joining me again for another episode of Knife Talks. This is where I just discuss knives. Again, I apologize for not producing much more content. Again, I'm in a makeshift studio here in a house that I'm remodeling. And I'm just spending the nights here so I can work on this a lot of hours. But it's going to be a few months before I have significant shop time or time to edit videos. So we're just going to talk through this real quick and hopefully I get through the entire thing. But tonight I want to talk to you about another series of knives or style of knife that is the camper knife. Camper. Now, a lot of people will call this a scout knife. And many people use those terms interchangeably, but technically, this one is not a scout knife. This one is a case. As you see, it has the main spear point blade. It has, if I can open the blades up, wow. There we go. It has a leather punch blade on the back side. Then on the front side, we have a can opener and bottle opener with screwdriver. That is pretty much a standard configuration for most camper knives, although there are some that differ, and we'll look at some of those tonight. This one has a bail. Most of them do. So that's what makes a camper style knife, is this basic configuration, although there are some differences, and we'll talk about some of those. Here is a scout knife. Now, this is not the name brand that makes the difference. This one has the actual Boy Scout logo. This one is a Boy Scouts of America, ulster, a little rough condition. The bail is missing. It has some rust on it, but the same basic blade configuration as the case. And the biggest difference is this one is an official Boy Scout knife. Now, to confuse matters a little bit, and this is why some people have gotten confused on this over the years. If I can find this example, here is an imperial that I believe I've dated it to the 1920s. It is not a shell-handled knife. It's a solid knife. It has a very old imperial etch or imperial stamp on it. Same basic configuration, although the can opener blade, you can tell, is very old on this one. Can openers over here, screwdriver cap lifter on this side. It does have the awl like the others. But this one says Scout on it. There were many companies that would put the Scout logo on it. Some American companies, some were German companies. But it became very popular to make camper style knives and put their name Scout on it. Some might even say Boy Scout, but it was not an officially licensed Boy Scouts of America product. So even if it says Scout, if it's not an official Boy Scout, I tend to call it a camper. And if it is officially licensed Boy Scout, then it is a scout knife. Now, they're the same design. It's just whether or not they're officially licensed. You may not feel that that's a big significance, and that's okay. I'm not going to argue it with you. That's just how I classify them and talk about them. So tonight we want to talk about a few of these. I'll show you. This is the closest thing that I have to a collection of knives. So there is the ulster that we looked at. And here is the case and that imperial. Now again, the name brand was not the biggest factor in whether or not it's a scout knife or a camper. I have here a couple more imperials. These were probably from the 1980s. This one, plastic handles. Again, it's not shell handle, it's solid, but it's made kind of cheap. The blades are a little thinner than some of the other brands, but it has the official Boy Scout etch on it. It has the symbol, although it's fairly worn on that one. I have another knife from the same time period here. It's an imperial, same, it's just brown handles. I got this one very cheap because something or somebody chewed on the plastic there. I don't know if I can, if you can see those marks on it. This one is carbon steel blades, where this one has the stainless steel blades. But same blade configuration, same basic knife, made around the same time frame. But they're officially licensed Boy Scouts of America, made by Imperial. But you may find other Imperial knives that are just campers. Here's an example of one that was made to look official, either scouting or military, but it is an Imperial. This one is a shell-handled knife. It says signal knife, kind of hinting that maybe it had to do with the signal corps or something in the military. We have the flag symbols for the dot and the dash, if I can get my hand out of the light and quit interfering with all that. On the reverse side, we have Morse code. So if I ever want to know Morse code, I just have to pick up this knife. but it is not a scout knife. It's not officially licensed. It is a camper, but it was a fun one. I'm sure it sold to a lot of scouts and a lot of boys who just wanted something cool back in those days. So that's a good one there. This one is a Monarch brand. It is made by a Japanese company, Monarch. Again, wow, we have some really tough, I'm going to break a nail trying to open that one. Really tough blades there. There, the leather punch opens up pretty easily. A good, wicked looking leather punch there. That one would work well. Plastic handles on this, so that's a good camper knife. I have one here that when I grab them up, sometimes I get them mixed up. It looks so much like the Monarch I just had. This one is a Western. I think it's model S901. It's hard to read that one. The stamp is very faint on the back of it. Delrin handles, but it's another very good knife. And I've had two of these. The other one had a broken back spring. And I think I took them apart and I just did a blade delete, wound up with the main blade and that screwdriver blade. And it was much thinner that way, fit in the pocket very well, and carried it a lot at work. This one I enjoyed carrying until I've lost it. But I'm sure it's around the house somewhere. As we clean out and move from one house to the other, I will probably find it. Now, this one is configured a little differently. This one is a Sears Craftsman. This one has the clip point blade rather than the spear point blade. That's a little unusual in campers. Most of them are spear point, although I don't know that it has to be. Good stainless steel blades. I don't know who made this for Kenmore, or Craftsman, excuse me. And this one also has a pin blade instead of the leather punch. But it's another very good heavy duty. And this is good quality craftsmanship on that Craftsman knife. Okay, another scout knife. It's unofficial, but some people will pick up on this one. As soon as I open up the can opener blade, this one is a Cataragas. Cataragas was a great knife company. They went out of business about 4 years before I was born. They went out of business in 1963. This one is in rough shape. It's been polished up a lot, and it was before I got it. The mane looks fairly short to me, so it may not be. It may have been that length to begin with, but as much as it's been used, I'm sure that's shortened a good bit. Again, the bail is missing on it. It has a tiny short little leather punch that, again, might have been broken off and reshaped. I don't know. I would have to have another one to compare it to, and I can't afford most Cataragas knives. I got a great deal on this one, but it has some beautiful bone on it, a little bit of paint in there I never could quite get out of it. I need to take a little more time and clean it up some more, I suppose. But yeah, just one of the more, I would say, more expensive camper knives that I have. Now I've got a few more here that come from another collection of mine. I also collect some Sharp brand knives. Sharp knives were sold in Kmart, I believe, and they were typically from Japan. There were a few that were made in the United States, a few made in other countries. This is a Japanese manufactured one. This one has many blades. It reminds me a lot of some of the old colonial knives and imperial knives that were the camper style. Let's see, I think this one is 6 blades. Yep, has another smaller spear point. And then over here we have the can opener that looks pretty effective. Has the main spear point blade and a smaller pen blade there. It's supposed to have a can opener here. That one's broken off, which is, not a can opener, a corkscrew. Wow, my brain just totally left me there. It's supposed to have a corkscrew here that broke off. I may take one off of a Swiss Army knife or something and put on it one day. I haven't worried about that yet. I never use a corkscrew on a knife anyway, but I do like the Sharp brand knives just because I liked shopping at Kmart, and I've got a few of them, so these are some good examples. This one is sort of a scout knife, but it's really more of a hobo knife, and I plan on showing hobo knives in a separate video along with some other things, but it's sort of a quasi, I guess it's really more of a hobo knife, even though it doesn't come apart like a good hobo knife will. But this is Sharp, made in Japan as well. And then this one, found this one at a trade day. It is also a Sharp, though the name is worn off of the plastic. It has it here. You can see the Sharp name. This one was made in Czechoslovakia. Now that dates the age, and I would have to look it up again to see, because there is no longer a country called Czechoslovakia. It's the Czech Republic now. This was probably made by, I think it's the Miko company, M-I-K-O. They are still in business, and they make some knives that are identical to this, or they did in that time period. It's very much like a Victorinox Swiss Army knife in the design of the can opener. This blade, and it seems to be fairly good quality stainless, but that's the only one of those I've ever seen. I'm sure there are more out there, but that's the only ones I've come across. Now, for official Boy Scout knives, I have a few more here. This one is by Bear MCG. It's a very good knife. This one has a fifth blade here that is a Phillips screwdriver blade, and I like that. This is an officially licensed one. It has the official etch, has the official Boy Scout logo. I got this one very inexpensive because it was a factory second, because from the factory, they're supposed to have the mark side and then pile side handles that are different. And this one had two mark side handles, so I had an empty spot here for a badge. I filled that in with another shield just to have it filled in. But that was a mistake. They put two mark side handles on it rather than a mark and pile side handle. But it's an official Boy Scout knife. I got a very good price on it, and I'm proud to tote it around and put it in my display case. Here is a Camillus. That is a beautiful little, some people would call this a Scout Master's knife. No, it's based on the design that you would call a Camillus 72, which is the swell-centered, which is the swell-centered knife with the clip blade, and they call it a whittler or carpenter's whittler, I think, even though the two small blades are not on the same end, the way a traditional whittler is. This one has seen some wear, especially on the coping blade right there. But when it is a Scout version, or Scout Master's knife, as some people call it, it's not a 72, it's a model 1047. But this one is a very pretty one. They've had the brown Delrin handles as well. This one is the white handles, but that is an official one, and I do like that knife. It's very pretty to me. Here is another Camillus. I'm sorry, I misspoke. This one is an Imperial. It's a Cub Scout knife. I was a Cub Scout before I graduated up into Boy Scouts. I like this one. Now, this specific model is just about worn out. I've got a few more of these, but they're in the shop for repair, and I don't know if I'll ever get to them. I have so many, but this is just one that was together enough to put into my collection here. Plastic handles. The shield is actually inside underneath the plastic, and it is plastic as well. This one, the backside has faded out terribly. It's purple instead of blue. Both of these handles are supposed to be blue. It has a liner lock for the main blade, and then this one is bent. Many of them were, so it no longer locks. But technically, it was supposed to lock and keep young hands safe as they learn to manipulate and use a pocket knife. So it was very good to learn on and learn knife safety with. I've got just a couple more we're going to run through real quickly here, and then I've got to get back to work. Here is a Camillus Eagle Scout knife. This one was designed to be a fairly inexpensive gift for someone who had achieved the rank of Eagle Scout. This is what we would call a lobster pattern because it has blades that open up on each side of it. And that's the name of that style. It has the scissors back here. So very much like the small Victorinox knives. This one is messed up a little on this end. The image is faded. I think it got water into there. And the rear handle is gone completely. But I got it very cheap in some, I think a lot or box of knives. And it's something I can put a rear handle on. And at least it fills a spot in my display case under the official Scout knives. So I do love that one. Now the other knives that I have here, I've got some Girl Scout knives. I'm just going to show you real quick. And some Boy Scout utensil knives. We're not going to go through this because I'm going to cover them in another thing, just to show that they have them. This was a folding dinnerware set, I guess you'd say. It's based on the George Schrade wireframe design. These are by, I'm trying to remember if this one is the George Schrade brand or not. I can't read the tang stamp in this light. Yes, there they are marked George Schrade. And it has the little leather pouch with the official Boy Scout logo on it. There's a spoon that comes with it. Sadly, my spoon was not the original. This one is looks like a little silver-plated spoon of sorts. But still, I'm glad to have the dinnerware set. I've also got the little folding set here by Imperial that is somewhat similar. They would come in a leather pouch, which I don't have for this one. This was based on a design by George Schrade, but we'll talk about those more later. I just want to show you that I do have those, as well as the Girl Scout knives. I have one of the Imperials with that. It's identical to the Boy Scout knife, except for the logo on it. It's the Girl Scout logo rather than the Boy Scout logo. Here is a Utica featherweight Girl Scout knife. It's really cool in the fact that the bolsters and the liners are aluminum. The blades are somewhat thin, but it just has two blades, a pin and a spear blade. It does have the bell lamp. It's very lightweight. I mean, this thing just weighs like maybe 2 ounces. It's very lightweight, and they were designed for that. I don't know why they thought girls couldn't handle a regular knife, but that was their thought process back then, was to make it lighter weight. Here is a Cutmaster Girl Scout knife. This one is a full camper. Now, this one I built from parts of various knives. I had a guy that gave me 3 or 4 of these. So I took it all apart, made one knife out of it, and the can opener blade over here is not original. It came out of another camper style knife. Nail nick was on the wrong side. I had to create one. But again, why throw the parts away? I had them, so I put them together to make them. So one last knife I want to show you, and it is an official Boy Scout knife. This is one of my favorite knives. This one is a Remington model R3333. It's a beautiful example of it, though it has been polished. I prefer my knives, older knives, to not be polished, but on this one I will make an exception. Beautiful bone that is unchipped front and back. It's a Boy Scout logo that's still crisp enough to read it, even though it has been polished. The thing that makes this knife so special, even though it's not as rare as the cataragas, probably not as expensive as some of the others I may own, this knife belonged to my great-grandfather. He gave it to my grandmother. I don't think he had it as a Boy Scout, but he got it later in life. He gave it to my grandmother because I think it was peaches or pears that she would cut up a lot of times, but some fruit. And she said this one fit her hand very well. It has that old style can opener that I would shudder to use. Yeah, so he gave this to her, to my grandmother. After her passing, it passed down to my father, and he gave it to me just a few years ago. So I'm very pleased to own this knife and this bit of family history. It's what I consider an heirloom, and that's one of my favorites. So, of course, being a Boy Scout, being an Eagle Scout, Scout knives have a special place in my heart, but especially this particular Remington. So that's it, folks. Thank you for joining me for this, letting me talk about knives for a little bit. I think there's something special, some connection we have with traditional pocket knives, or that many men have with traditional pocket knives. It may be something that takes us back to our childhood, a knife that we had in that time. It may remind us of something our grandfather carried, or it may be a family heirloom in and of itself. But whatever the case is, sometimes it's hard to define why we like pocket knives, but we do. We're drawn to them. We enjoy talking about them. We enjoy sharing them. We enjoy using them. And perhaps you could take some time this week and the upcoming weeks to share a knife with a young man who just never had that. A lot of young men don't. I've given some to some of the boys at church. Of course, I would ask their parents first, is it okay if I give him a knife? Some of the young men that had accomplished something or done something, and I would give them a pocket knife. I don't know if they can carry it. I don't know if they do, but at least I hope to instill that in someone. My son does not care for them at all. Some of you may be in the same boat, but maybe you can foster a love for pocket knives in someone else. And if you get a chance to do that, please do. And in some way, I pray God blesses you. I pray you have a great day. Thank you for watching my channel. Thank you for being a part of this. I welcome your comments. Y'all take care. God bless, and we'll talk to you later. Bye.